What's so special about these plugs? Let me tell you. I had an interesting question from a viewer this week on the post I made about the Rebel Super R and how I'd talked about it as one of my favorite old baits. And he asked me to rank that bait from a 1 to a 10, from 1 being the worst, 10 being the very best, in a wide range of conditions. I replied with, I'd rate that bait around a 6, as it is pretty specific on the scenarios that bait works really well in. And then he asked me about another bait, and I ranked it what I thought, which in turn brought up another question of, well, what would you rank as a number 10? It really got me to thinking, and I began to respond to that question, realizing I was writing a book, and I just decided I'd do a video about that, and I'd share the top 4 baits that I think rank as a 10. Now, ranking as a 10, it's going to need to be a bait that catches bass all the time in a wide range of conditions, water conditions, temperatures, water color, north, south, east, and west. Wherever you go, wherever you're at, these baits are going to need to get bit, and that's what these are. Now, I have a lot of baits, and most of them are very specific to a very specific water temp, color, level, area of the country that they really work well in. Like myself, I love the Rapala Shad Rap. It's one of my favorite baits, but it has a very narrow window that it's ultra effective. Now, it will catch fish all the time, but there are narrow windows when that bait is the very best bait to be throwing, and the bait that will catch the biggest stringer in the lake on that day. But that'll cause that bait to rank really low in this particular scale. So here's my top 10 lures, actually crankbaits. We're talking about crankbaits. Number 1 on that list, and this is a really popular plug and has caught millions of bass. I think a lot of people would agree with me. Sure enough, a lot of top fishermen would agree. The Rapala DT6. This bait is the right size, runs the right depth. It's got a nice subtle action, and there's nowhere this bait doesn't work. I caught onto this bait a little bit late. I always threw a lot of different other lures, but my son threw this bait a lot, and watching him, I learned just how effective this bait was, and I began to put it into my arsenal, and it has become that bait for me. I can leave this bait on any time of the year and get bit on it in any kind of water. Cold, warm, muddy, clear, it does not matter. DT6. Any shad pattern is excellent. Don't have to get too crazy with it. A little red crawfish in the spring, maybe even a chartreuse one where you got some muddy water or warmer water, this bait gets bit all the time. Number 2, and these two are real close together, the Lucky Craft, or anything similar to that, Strike King. Everybody makes one in the 1.5 series. That one specifically. This bait catches bass everywhere in the world. I don't think there's anywhere you can go and not throw this bait and catch some fish. It catches fish and it wins tournaments. It's one of those baits you can just tie on and get to fishing. Fish everything that comes in front of you, you will catch bass. I keep it pretty simple on the colors. Chartreuse black back, white and black, and you throw in a little red crawdad in there. There ain't nowhere you can't go and catch bass on that and do well. Thirdly, this is a bait that I don't throw enough, but every time I throw it, it always produces, and I always keep it in my box. And this bait will produce numbers of fish and big fish. That is the old standard Bill Lewis rattle trap. This bait gets bit everywhere. Just tie it on and get to throwing. Take you a chrome with blueback, maybe a red craw, something like that here and there. But mainly, you take a chrome one, blueback, blackback, it catches them. Everywhere, all the time, any color of water, anywhere. One of the greats. I never go anywhere without one of these. And I've got one other bait. And this bait is relatively new, and it hasn't been out that long, but for me personally, it is becoming ranking up there. I'm gonna say it's about a 9 right now for me as an all-time bait that just seems to get bit everywhere. And that bait is a Rock Crawler 55 MD. Now, unlike the regular Rock Crawler 55, that's kind of regulated to that winter and springtime fishing, this 55 MD is a really unique bait. It fits the bill kind of like that DT does. It's really deflects well. It has a really nice action to it, and it just gets bit. It's the right profile, and you can tell this one, I mean, this thing, it's caught a bunch of bass. Shad patterns, crawfish patterns I do really well on. I've had some painted a chartreuse color I like. This bait just gets bit, and I'm beginning to have this bait tied on all the time. It just catches fish. I think very soon it's going to be a 10 for me and rank right with these other 3. Steady baits that always get bit. Those are my 10s. I think you could make them 10s real easy. That's just my opinion. I'm sure we all have those baits for us that just get bit no matter what, all the time, that we would be willing to leave tied on a rod 24/7 and know we're going to catch some fish. I sure appreciate the question. And I want to thank everybody for taking some time out to watch this old stuff I've been putting on here. I just feel like we're all obligated to keep the past alive and share what we know. And hopefully everybody enjoys it. I know I sure enjoy talking about it. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you on the next one.